If you know, but didn't know how to get there, listen to the Massive Passive Show. You'll hear top investors and experts share how to tap into the incredible opportunities that Houston offers real estate investors. A favorable business climate, low cost of housing, and that Texas wildcatter mentality are just some of the reasons that the top investors nationwide are flocking to Texas. The Massive Passive Show starts now.
Good morning, Houston and YouTubers. Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Massive Show, brought to you by Ala Maria of Houston and San Antonio. I am James Haney, and I'm here with our other hosts, Pat Reisinger and Ray Sasser. How are we guys doing this morning?
Doing great. How you doing?
Doing good. Hey, we got a jam-packed show today and a really exciting show. It's every week it goes without saying, but I still say it anyway. Today we're going to be talking about several things. One of the things we're going to be talking about is how to work with your contractors and get them to do what they're supposed to do based on the agreement. We're going to talk a little bit about what should be in the agreement. We have a special guest that will be calling in at 9:30. So you'll be want to stay tuned to that. And then we're going to.
By the way, that guest is a super achiever. I mean, it's just me. Well, Pat, we know you're a super achiever. We know you're a legend in your own mind.
I've been waiting for that so I can plug it in there.
And then we're going to give after our wonderful special guest, we're going to be giving you some information on our events that we have coming up. And then Ray is going to close out the show talking about what's going on in the market. He's going to give a little market report, and he's got quite a few interesting things to share with you guys on that. So we look forward to having you on for the market report. So I'm going to hand the show over to Pat. He's got to acknowledge some of our wonderful sponsors.
Yeah, I'm Pat Reisinger. I am also a vendor here. But anyway, you can get all of our vendors on our website, which is MassivePassiveShow.com. And we'll say that 4 or 5 more times at least because we want you guys to go to our website because that's where all of our events are posted and all of our vendors and other information that we have. We have a bus tour coming up. We have the Houston Alamo RIA, which is the 13th. We also have the San Antonio Alamo RIA, which is on the 11th of November.
Meeting is. Yeah.
The meeting. These are general meetings, and you're welcome to come. If you're new and you've never been to one, show up. Because, matter of fact, if you show up early at 8:30 at the Houston Alamo RIA, which is 1001
West Loop South.
West Loop South, then I'll make sure you get a breakfast taco. Just mention my name, Pat, and I'll direct you where you can get one.
Can we make our orders right now?
Well, yeah, I guess so. We better call Nikki and make sure she gets them over there. Her brother owns a restaurant, which we advertise for him on our website. And anyway, he's got great
Does that
tacos.
mean we get a discount?
I hope we do. But anyway, real quick, we got some great vendors that keep us on the air, and they're on our website. So go there. I also want to plug a couple of vendors that I'm courting right now to be on our show, right? And these guys, if I say their name, they'll probably be vendors. I vetted these guys. I know who they are. And one is Zach that you sent me.
Right.
It has a solar company.
Right.
And I just contacted him again this morning, and they install solar panels in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Fort Worth, just about everywhere. And they have an office in Houston and one in Dallas, Fort Worth. And I said, well, look, be our vendor, and then we'll make a deal with you, and you can sell in our market in San Antonio, too.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. I've talked to him a couple of times. And anyway, hopefully he's going to be one of our vendors. And by the way, if you're a vendor, that wants to advertise more, you can contact me through our website. Just look up Pat Reisinger and Residential Rehab Consulting. My information is there. You can text me or call me, and I'll return your call, and you can become one of our vendors because we do exclusivity in this thing. One electrician, one plumber, one of each thing, so you don't have any competition.
Right.
The other thing is, real quick, Oscar's Tire Shop. I was at Oscar's Tire Shop this week getting my oil changed. He lives right down. His business is right down the street from me. Matter of fact, I sent Ray down there, and Ray got a brake job on his daughter's car at a really good price, right?
Yeah.
like what, $110?
It was cheap. I don't even remember.
It was cheap, yeah. Well, I've had both my truck and my wife's car done, and I've sent other people to Oscar's Tire Shop. He's great. He'll change your oil. He'll do brake jobs. You can buy new tires from him, and he even sell you used tires. So I'll buy a used set of Michelin's for my truck for $200 for the set, and they probably have 20,000 miles left on them, you know?
Right.
So, I mean, if you know Michelin tires, they're the best, right? Also, real quick, I want to mention this guy, Gerardo. I met Gerardo at the tire shop this week, and Gerardo does steel doors and repair steel doors and all for commercial buildings and stores and et cetera. Great guy. You know, you talk to these people, and I've been doing this for 50 years almost, and I've done commercial and residential, and, you know, you talk to people and you know pretty quick that they know what they're doing, right?
Well, I think in your case that can work because you can drill down real quick. You know, like a lot of people, if they say, well, what do you know about electrical? And they say, oh, I know a lot. Then you ask 5 questions, you realize they don't know anything.
Exactly. And, you know, that's very true because, you know, I remember the first workshop I did after I left the company I worked for, you know, like 8 years ago, and I did a workshop.
Right.
And anyway, I had like 50 people in the room, and a couple of them were real estate agents. And one of them came to me, you know, like during the meeting, and he goes, the workshop, and he goes, man, you know, you talk about electrical, you've talked about ACs, like, you know, all these other jobs. And I said, well, yeah, that's why I'm doing the workshop, right? I mean, I've been doing this since I was a kid.
That's one thing that a project manager brings to the table is they're supposed to know and be able to qualify the people they're bringing on the job. And then as longtime investors, we've been burned so much, and that's something we're going to start talking about pretty quick, I think. Just how to do business with contractors so you're not leaving yourself wide open. And honestly, it doesn't even matter if it's in writing. It's so hard to enforce outcomes, even if they're in writing. So we really got to figure out how to vet these people. We got to figure out how to ask the right questions. And there's got to be something, they got to have skin in the game. You know,
right.
if you're one job to them, then they don't have a lot of skin in the game. They can take your money, they'll get it out of your pocket. If like through our network, they let you down, they're letting down the next 30 jobs, next 40 jobs, because we'll boot them out of there.
Well, you know, I called my gate wouldn't work this morning, my automatic gate. Right. So I had to open it by hand with the crank, you know. So I called my fence guy, and he didn't answer, but I called his gate guy that installed the gate, right, and the gate motor. I have an Eagle motor, and they're the best. But occasionally, you know, even the best little parts, you know, mess up. And this has to do with a sensor, I think.
Yeah.
And when I was trying to open it, it started to want to close, even though it wouldn't open this morning, right?
Right.
So I called Javier, and then I called him again on the way out to the radio.
This is a rabbit hole. This is an official rabbit hole.
It's not a rabbit hole. But the reason I vetted these guys,
we need a bail or something.
I vetted these guys,
need to get that
and I
signal.
called him, and he said, Pat, I'll be out there today. Is somebody going to be there? And I said, yeah, my wife's there now. And the gate's open so you can get to it. And so, you know, here's a company that I vetted that's been my vendor for many years, and it became a vendor on our radio show. And these guys are good. They're going to come out and take care of it. And they'll do you too. I mean, it's their business to take care of their company.
I think we need to do the Monty Python where the guy's going across the bridge with the troll, and if you didn't know the answer, you hit the eject button and it shoots them out of the house.
You know, I'm sitting by the back door. They could shove me right out here on the second floor and I'd land on my head out there.
Hey, we have permission to do that.
They're threatening to do that now.
Okay, Hal, I want you to get a rabbit hole button, and it's got to sound something like a rabbit or something.
Well, maybe he could just go, you know, like on the game shows, you know.
Exactly.
But anyway, you guys have a great weekend. And look, go to our website and come to our event. You know, you're going to learn a lot. You'll meet a lot of great people. And I always say, if you're going to do this thing, you need to hang with people that do what you do.
Your network is your net worth. And that sounds stupid, but it is so true because you don't even know what you don't know until you start hanging around people who are achieving great things. In fact, our guest today is an example of somebody that literally started with a bad upbringing, had everything, 3 strikes against him, had everything go against him, and somehow he decided he was going to live a better life. And he started hanging out with the right people. He started developing the right mindset. And, you know, Robert is like an inspiration to me. And he's going to be in our panel the next month. But we're also going to do a 5 or 10 minute meet and greet him today on the show.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you already. I mean, I've got a colorful past, and I can tell you that
I believe that
when Robert's talking, I'll be saying because I've been there too, and believe me, you can turn your life around. You just have to want to. I mean, no one can do that for you. The
only thing that's stopping you is the attitude and hanging around people that know how to get things done.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into dealing with the contractors. This topic came up earlier this week. I had a friend of mine reach out to me, and she's got her house. She's been dealing with her house since the freeze, and we're coming up on, 10 months, and she's being, jerked around by her contractor, and They had a contract. It's signed. There's a scope of work from the insurance company that all parties approved, and now they're getting to the end of the job. And that's from my impression, from our conversation, it's just one thing after another. They've got in there. They decided it's no longer a moneymaker. She's down at the bottom of their priority list, and yet her house still is not ready. There's still work to be done, and they're in the last phase. And the good part where I think that she has, because I did, give her my experience and gave her some pointers, but she still owes them the final phase. It's not like they've got all their money and they're going to, disappear. She does have, in my opinion, she's got some rights here. And so that's what I wanted to kind of talk about today.
Okay.
Is, how do you prevent that from happening? Or if you find yourself in that situation, what can you do?
Well, I definitely have some strong opinions on this. In fact, we're going to change our little saying from AFO to, I think it should be MFO.
Okay, well,
because we can't say the A on the air. But so let's officially change it to be monster for outcomes. You have to be a monster for outcomes, because if you're the little kitten in the corner meowing, you're going to get stomped on. And if you want outcomes, you need to be a monster for the outcome, and whatever it takes, and that's your last level. So let's be monster for outcomes. And the bottom line is the contractor is not a legitimate or honorable contractor. They've done the math. They found out they can't finish the job with the amount of money that's left in the job, and so they're done. And the odds of getting that contractor to come back, unless they're licensed, the odds of getting that contractor to come back are somewhere between 0 and 1%.
Well, there's no license in the state of Texas because our past governor started the program and then killed it.
Well, but if you're right, that's for general though. In subs though, if there's an electrician, plumber, and whatever the other subs might be, if there's HVAC, you can get those guys to come back to the table. You can get the subs to come back, but you're not going to get the general to come back.
That's true.
Unless you've got some sort of leverage. But I mean, that monster for outcome, it goes like this. It's like, oh, would you help me solve this problem? Would you please come out? That's level 1. Level 2 is like, it's time now. And level 3 is like, you lied to me. You're not telling me the truth. Level 3. And level 4 is, I'm going to do my best to put you out of business. Level whatever that is, 4 or 5. Yeah. So you have to be that monster for outcome. You have to have people who have a stake in the game, that have a lot to lose. And that's the power, I think, in our vendor network. Our power is that it's not that you're going to lose that job. When you do the math and say it's $20,000 to finish the job and you got $10,000 coming, they're not going to finish it. It's not going to happen.
Right.
But if they're part of our network and we say, no, you can't treat our membership, you can't treat our friends like this, you're not getting anything else from us. Now they're walking away from the next 10, they're walking away from the next 20 jobs. Now there's contractors out there, they'll lose money and they'll finish the job. Okay. But I mean, I don't know what that number is, but it's got to be 50% of the contractors, when they get upside down, they're walking. And you just can never let them get upside down.
I've been in this business a long time,
Yeah,
and I mean, that's why I consult clients, is it, first of all, you never give a contractor a huge down payment. Like these guys come in, they want a third or a half. Well, they haven't done anything. And you give them that money,
right.
They could really walk and never come back.
Yeah.
And in the state of Texas, it's very, very difficult to recoup your money. It's very difficult. And it's very cool. If you want to put them out of business, heck, let us close their business down and then get a new name. And that happens all the time. I've been to so many houses when I worked for a hard money lending company where guys were upside down already because they gave somebody a big down payment. They did a very little work, and then they wanted another draw. Right. And then they were telling them, look, if you don't give me another draw, I'm going to file a lien on you. Well, I said, give me his number. I'm going to give him a call. And I tell him, I said, look, we're loaning this person the money, and we know that you've already messed over him. So we're going to come after you. And believe me, you're not going to be a happy camper. And they go away. And then I say, okay, now this is how I want you to handle the job. First of all, never, ever give a contractor a huge down payment.
Right.
Okay, because once you do that, you're kind of hooked, and they know it. So the way I consult people to do is, look, it's okay to give somebody, and this is the way I did it when I was a general contractor. Let's say it was a $30,000 rehab I was doing in a house, some interior work, and maybe a little outside work. I would say, okay, look, give me $1,500 is in my contract to get started, okay? And then I'll do progress payments. So I'll install your doors, and I'll do XXX, and I said that's going to be $3,800. And then once I do those things, I give you an invoice, and you pay that. Right. So at the end of the job, there's not a big balloon payment. It's only what I'm finishing. So I'm always have incentive to finish the job because I want that last check. And generally on the last check, it's pretty big. It's, like $3,000 or $4,000, right? And that makes my client feel easy. And when the job's over with, we're friends. They refer me to other people. And if you give people too much money, like if you're giving this guy too much money, he may not come back.
Well, the basic math that your typical contractor uses is the advance that you give them helps them finish their last job.
Right.
Because they're not good at scheduling their budget and staying on budget because they don't spend the energy. And most contractors aren't good at that. And so if that's true, that's also true on their next job. Their next job, they require down payment to finish the last part of your job. And
well, Ray, we do, of course, it was me, but now it's us, right? Because I'm a part of Massive Passive. James and Ray and me are Massive Passive.
And Sharon.
And Sharon. Oh, yeah, I forget Sharon. And I told Sharon I was going to make sure I mentioned her name today. But y'all just kick me in the head, okay?
Before or after the show ends?
Well, the whole point of what I'm trying to tell you people is that, listen, we can come in there and run your project, and we'll bring the general contractor is the guy that does the doors and the sheetrock and the painting and all that kind of stuff. And then we have electricians and plumbers and HVAC and all that are licensed. And they'll give you a price on it. We don't jack the price up. If there's a change order, you just pay them direct, and we're like your partner. We'll run the job for you and make sure it gets done right, and it will get finished. And you'll like what you're getting. You'll like all the vendors. Matter of fact, after it's over, you'll probably be calling them and not us, which is fine because you'll be referring us to other people. I mean, that's how we make money. But anyway, that's the way to run the deal. Is we basically teach you how to be the general contractor, and we help you, and we're your partner, and we kind of run the deal and coach you through it. So the next time you need a repair, you know what to do.
And another part to that is, again, going back to making sure that you have everything in writing up front, and that you have the contractor agreement, and then you have the scope of work. The scope of work is laid out so that there's no issues, and then everybody signs off on it. And then that
But James, I think it's more than that, because the scope of work, the value of the scope of work is not so you know who's supposed to do what and then jump on them because they're not successful. The power of the scope of work is to clearly define what needs to be done so they come up with a good budget. Because if they don't come up with a good budget, they're going to be upside down.
Well,
if a guy gives you a bid and it's not right, the numbers don't make sense, and he underbids the job, guess who gets screwed? So the value of the scope of work is that it makes it clear to everybody. I go through the scope of work. I have a partner right now that we went through the scope of work, and I've gone through it with him 10 times, and he still doesn't have the right numbers in there. And yet I'm relying on him to give me a budget as an investor. I'm relying for him to give me a budget as an investor, and his budget's wrong. And so he's saying, no, we need $20,000 to finish this job. Well, it isn't $20,000, it's $35,000. And so we bring, $20,000 or $25,000 of capital to do the repairs, and then we run out of money out of on the end of the job, the same way a contractor would. And I know we've got Robert on the phone. Just one last thing is, so you got to have the scope of work, and you got to make sure that it's not too high and it's not too low, and it includes everything. And sometimes I imagine you could probably get Pat to look at that, review that for you as a favor, and say, hey, he didn't have anything in here about this part of the job. Who's going to pay for that? And if it's not in there, that means you're going to end up, that contractor's going to run out of money.
Well, that's the whole issue. You got to build a scope of work, because if, for instance, when I went and looked at jobs, when I was a general contractor, I built a scope of work from what the client told me, and I put everything in writing. I typed it,
Right.
And so when my clients looked at it, they could see, matter of fact, they could see things that they forgot they told me, okay? Because if you just walk through and tell people by memory, everybody's going to get a different story.
And let me just tell you, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you tell me you have a photographic memory. Your memory, my memory, Pat's memory, James' memory sucks when it comes to having 200 or 300 items on a list. We got a caller in, so let's introduce him, James.
Yeah, let's get...
Good morning, Robert. You on the line?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Thank you for calling in, Robert. Glad to have you. I did just receive your email with your bio. I hadn't had a chance to read it, but I do know a little bit. I've met you a few times and had a chance to interact with you several times. But tell our listeners a little bit about you. I know that you did, have a rough upbringing. You made some bad choices, coming up, and then, something clicked, and you have completely turned it around, and you've made a name for yourself, and you're very successful.
Hey, Robert, I know you probably don't drink anymore, but talk loud like you're ordering a drink in a bar, because you're on the radio.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Ray Sasser for the opportunity, and always been a person of value to the marketplace, just to keep that in perspective. And James, I want to thank you for the introduction and contacting me to do this show. So thank you guys, thank the radio show, and it's just definitely an honor. Definitely an honor for this moment. So thank you, Mr. Ray, for this opportunity, sir.
Well, it wasn't me, Robert. You earned everything you got. You had everything against you, and you decided you weren't going to accept that.
Yeah, this is Pat. I've heard your story. I told Ray this morning that when you talk, you're going to be telling my story too. So you're not alone in this world, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, with that being said, first and foremost, I'm gonna keep it in perspective, give all honor and glory to God for this moment. And yeah, James, yeah, man, in life I did go through a lot of rough trials and tribulations, but as I got older now, I see I brought those things on myself. But I tell myself, without the journey, I don't even know if I would be here where I'm at, with the grit will, with the bulldog determination, with the strategic focus, with the patience, So as I look back in retrospect, that led me into those moments in my life that led me to go through federal prison at 22 years old. That was the mindset at the time, and my demographics. That's what you're accustomed to. The first 5 people you're around, that's who you become.
And that's exactly what happened, isn't it, Robert?
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that as a parent, I think something that I try to be better at, but I struggle because I let myself down a lot, is to be a role model, to be the person you need to be, because the young Robert, is 17 years old. He doesn't have a lot of good role models. He doesn't have the right kind of role models. And somehow, if we're going to give back, we need to be that role model to the people out there that just don't have that available to them. Well,
sometimes prison and jail for some people, it's like the light comes on, and it came on for you. I mean, I had a little problem back 38 years ago, and I quit drinking, and my life's been totally different, and because I wanted to change, and you wanted to change too, Robert. And that's the beauty of how God works in your life, is that, it's faith without works, and you're working it,
Right.
So
Absolutely.
at 22, you went to federal prison, and then when did you get out?
Man, when did I get out? It's a long story to that, to go all the way to that. But I got out and went back through about 3 violations, and but they was different moments, and it was special to the piece of my life. You know, without these violations after I got out, because when I went to prison, I did 4 years and some months, and I went to the federal halfway house right there in downtown, and I violated just a couple of months after that, trying to be fly, have a drink with a young lady at Papa Do's, and I had to go back to the halfway house, and this the first time they started breathalyzing people, so I went back to prison, and then after that, it was some other situations, but the last time I actually got out was from the last violation in my life when I was with Home Investors. Shout out to Ron DiGiovanni, a guy that gave me one of the biggest opportunities in my life to build him to be a wealthy guy, to be his negotiator for 2 years, you know. And that's when my breaking point really came into this business, you know. And I fast forwarded to that moment just to him, but he's a guy that plays a significant role in my life, you know. But back to the when did I get out, Mr. Ray? I got out in 2016 from my last violation.
Yeah, and then what happened?
That's when I stepped into my other self. That's when I stepped into my other self, because when I got out, I was no longer with Home Investors. You know, they one of the largest franchises in the world. And that's when I found myself. That's when I stepped into my purpose, because I run my own company. I buy my own houses with my own cash now. I got my own funding. So those things, then I would have been handicapped working somebody else's vision if I never stepped into it, went through that last violation. That's why I say it's a long story, and which is going to come out in my book soon. All my trajectories of all the narrative change and the paradigm shifts, all that stuff going to be in there, kind of what led me to this point. But that's why I'm thankful for each one of those moments, because in my my second violation, I met a man with 8 life sentences in 100 years, and we became best friends, walking the track every day. That's the guy that got me to change my paradigm from never doing no wrong again. Like I said, man, I'd never sell drugs again after meeting this guy. And without that, because I still had the mentality, let me go back out here and be a hustler. Let me go ahead back in, because I had the young mindset.
Right.
Well, I tell you, you know, God works in mysterious ways. I always say that. I don't know who God is, but I know I'm not him, you know?
Right.
Well, so basically with Home Investors, you kind of saw what was going on from a distance. You learned how to become a good negotiator. And then the third time you went in, you realized that something had to change. And then you ran across this person who had a big influence on you, who had, I guess, no hope of ever getting out, right?
Yes. Been locked up 23 years at the time I met him.
Yeah. And it's such a shame, because 1 second, 1 minute of bad decisions changes your life forever.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they're young, they're just looking for ways to solve problems. They just don't have the coping skills or the knowledge on how to overcome things without making these irreversible changes.
Well, sometimes you just have to hit a bottom, you know, and
yeah, but if you hit bottom and it causes you to have 8 life sentences.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to hit an emotional bottom where you really change it. And it's Robert, right?
Yeah. Well, and one thing that impresses me the most is, because in life, things are going to happen to you. You can't prevent that. But what you can do is control how you react to what happens.
Absolutely.
And that's what Robert has done. He has taken, you know, he could have very well, you know, said, well, I guess this is just my life. This is how it's going to be. And he's like, no, this is not it. You know, I'm going to use that. And it helped with his character, helped form his character. And now he uses that in his business, not only his life, his personal life,
right,
but also his business.
Well, you know, Robert, what's good about your story is that, you know, there are people that are listening to the show that haven't been to prison or jail, but they're kind of in prison or jail in their own minds. Is that I can't do this. I'd like to do this, but I can't do it. And the cool thing is that you don't have to do it alone. They got people like yourself, Ray, me, James, that are here to help you. And, just like coming to our new Houston Alamo Rio, right? Is it the second Saturday of every month we meet, and it's investors that are just like us and people that are sitting out listening to this radio show right now that would like to be in this business, that we work together and learn together and help each other.
So let me ask Robert another question. He said two things that I made a note of because these things were very, very valuable to me. One is you said that you accepted responsibility. And then and this is next one I want you to talk about is you had a strategic focus. And so tell us a little bit about what your strategic focus is. What does that mean to you?
Strategic focus to me is like in my journey, you got to think about it in real estate, just how this show is providing value. Ray, you always provided value in your masterminds. And so in order to be strategic focused, you got to get to know the right people. You have to sometimes sacrifice from going out and self evaluating yourself with personal development. I'm a YouTube King University guy. so you I can't go in my house and watch TV and I ain't closed no deal. I feel like I cheated myself. I gotta have YouTube on, and as I use the restroom, I gotta have YouTube on. If I got in the shower, I'm listening to YouTube. I got it loud, blasting. So strategic focus is removing yourself from the things that you like, and I was able to correlate that process from when I was in prison when I wanted to stop drinking sodas. So I said I got to be strategic. So I just start using a lot of mindset disciplines to keep myself strategic, because a guy that come from prison, not having any type of means to come back into the real estate world, I had to really be strategic focused by enlighten myself around like-minded people. So that's what I mean by strategic focus. Like I had to change the way I think. I had to change the way I hang around my family and friends. I got to be at Barnes and Nobles every day. I got to be at the right places to run into the right people that can add value to my life.
So what I love is that you are deciding which voices you listen to. And that's what YouTube does. You decide, you make an intentional decision to listen to the voices that are saying what you need to know or what you need to hear. So it keeps you focused.
Yes, absolutely.
So are you going to be at our event, Robert? Because I sure want to meet you, man.
Yeah, he's going to be on the panel.
Oh, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. Definitely look forward, because like I say, Ray is one of the Houston most massive mastermind guys I know. Anytime he talk and he move, and from the moments I've met him, I seen tremendous value. That's why when James called me, I actually supposed to been out of town on that day, but I said I got to stop what I'm doing to bring value to Mr. Ray on the spot.
Well, thank you.
That's
bro.
Fantastic. We really appreciate that, because it's pretty rough. The pandemic's still here, right?
Yeah.
And but there are people that are been vaccinated, and some are just not afraid, and they're showing up. People still wear masks. It's okay. Come out. The room's big enough. You can almost be social distancing in it if you like.
So really quick, we're just about to wrap this up, but as we just mentioned, we do have our meeting next Saturday, which the information is on the MassivePassiveShow.com. And Robert is going to be, we're going to have a panel. There's going to be two other investors and wholesalers there. And Robert is going to be one of our special guests on that panel. Because he's out there doing deals, and he's making a name for himself, and we just the feedback that we're getting from him today is it's reciprocated.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. Every time I talk to Robert, I feel motivated. I get the chills down my spine. Just talking to him. And it's always about adding value when it comes to Robert.
Now I know why you sounded so smart today.
Today. Thank you, Pat.
It's something that I think in order to be a great teacher, you have to be a great student. I think Robert said it, that we, just the way he listens to YouTubes and he decides who he listens to, is we all stand on the shoulders of the people that went before us. And if you're a great student, Robert's going to share with us a lot of ideas and thoughts on how to approach problems and solve problems. And that's what we want. That's what we need.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Robert, all week I prowl our Facebook pages and I look for people in the Houston area that are posting on there, and I invite them to our events and to the radio show. And I've gotten like a half a dozen comments this morning. I'll listen to the show and I'll be at the event. And so you people that are listening to the show that I've sent messages to on Facebook, come on out.
And bring a friend, tell a friend, even if it, we're going to be primarily talking about real estate, but as you can tell, Robert brings a lot of great value to life. But Robert, we want to thank you for calling in. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We appreciate you calling in and being a part of our panel next week.
And be sure and send me his information so I can tell other people about, hey, we're going to have a special guest and this panel.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I really thank you gentlemen this morning just to provide value and just to give me an opportunity because, I just believe you put in the work to get the rewards and I'm committed. I'm not one of these guys that just like to lip wrestle or just half commit. I'm committed because I have an end goal. My mom invested in me, so I got some things to do in this journey. So I'm appreciative of every opportunity. I look forward to be there. I will share this with my friends and family, and I look forward to bringing value. Thank you, Mr. Ray, again.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Robert. See you next week.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and let me share some information about our events coming up, and then we're going to get into the market report here in a few minutes. So again, next Saturday, November 13th at 1001 West Loop South. It's over by the Galleria area. The information is on our website, massivepassiveshow.com. That is next Saturday. And then we have a bus tour on December 4th where we're going to go tour some properties and things like that. And that information is also on our website. And we'll also have information at the meeting next Saturday. This coming Thursday, we're actually going to be in San Antonio at the Ala Maria San Antonio's general meeting where we're going to have a special guest, Robin Thompson, who's the rehab queen, and she's going to be talking about rehabbing houses in 2022 and also Airbnb.
Yeah, if you're in San Antonio, you definitely need to go see her. She's sort of like Robert's got a very inspirational story, had a lot of reasons not to be successful and could have made excuses. And then she pulled inside of herself, just like Robert, and said, I'm in control of this and I'm going to change the way my future looks and how I leave this place. So Robin's she's our most popular speaker ever in San Antonio. So it's, for me, when you have somebody like that around you, you come and listen to them because even if you pick up one or two good ideas, it's worth the time. And it changes your life.
Yeah,
it changes
absolutely.
Your destiny.
Change the history of your whole life
and your families. I mean, it's just sometimes I sit back and I wonder about these little decisions, and just like Robert talked about, just these little decisions, and it changes everything. And sometimes for the best, and sometimes for the worst. And our goal is to figure out, what are these little decisions we want to make every day that give us, like Robert said, that strategic focus? Southwest Airline wanted to be the low-cost airline provider. And if it wasn't in line with that vision, they said, no, it's not approved. And that's what a strategic focus is to me. It's like, how does that fit where I'm going? How does that get me to where I'm going? If it doesn't, it's out of here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just like, growing up as kids, you look under the Christmas tree and you want to see that biggest gift, but then the older you get, you realize
people get stuff like that.
The better, they didn't have Christmas gifts back then when you were growing up. But then the older you get, you realize that the best gifts actually come in small packages. And it's the same thing with.
Oh, I love that analogy. I've never, my whole life, I've never heard that analogy. It's a great analogy.
Well, I was so poor that my first pair of shoes I wore out from the inside.
I remember as a kid looking in the back of the magazines, and the last 10 pages of the magazines, at least the ones I read, had all these neat things you could buy, and I could never buy one because I'd never had any money.
Yeah. Well, I was always afraid, because I didn't have a credit card.
Well, the other thing that I was
They didn't have credit cards when you were
I
a
don't
kid,
think so. I don't think they just invented money.
Barely had money.
The other thing that I always like to say is, along with that, it goes even the smallest things that you do. I mean, even I wonder if my wife is still listening, but this morning we had a conversation, and just the one little word that I may or may not have said, she heard it one way, and I think I said it another way. She might be coming with me next Saturday or to the
meeting
2-day event,
Or you might be getting a divorce, right?
So she's going to be coming. Well, I wasn't sure if she was working that night or not. And so when she told me that she was off, I said, oh, well, you can come with me. But she heard that I said, well, maybe now you want to come with me. And it's just the smallest things like that can have the bigger effects.
Well, wait.
That happens to me all the time at my house.
Now, I still don't know the answer. Did she scream at you, or did she say, okay, thank you? How did that end up?
Your head?
No.
I'm just trying to know what the formula is. So what's the formula? Did that work or not?
No, it was. She brought up after the fact, after the conversation was over. I was already headed over here, and we had another conversation about it. That I could have said something a little different. And I thought I said something the way that I thought I did, but we don't even know.
I know that as a coach, we do some coaching, but I don't want to coach people if their partners aren't in it with them.
Yeah.
Because it's a knockdown, drag out fight, and they're not there to see how the math works. They're not there to see why we do these things in this order. And so you got to have your partners on board with you, and you've got to learn how to get that going. Yeah. You got to learn how. I'd rather have my partners on board with me than make every penny in a deal. There's no question. There's no comparison. A partner is a lifetime. A deal comes and goes. So we got to get our partners on board with us in everything we do. Yeah. And was that me patting the table? I was doing the
I had my hands crossed.
Well, because of this fancy table you made, it doesn't vibrate anymore.
I know. Well, that turntable we have with our mics on, how I put those rubber pads under it.
It made a big difference.
It made a huge difference on how we broadcast.
Yeah.
So the point I was just trying to make was that it's the small things you do that can have the biggest impact. You know, and the small things you do today impact you tomorrow, and that is in a good way and a bad way.
Right.
So that's really all I have on that. Ray, we have about 10 minutes left. Is what I'm seeing here. So Ray's going to give the market report, and that's going to be a big challenge for Ray to give it in 10 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Before we do that, Pat, talk about who makes all this happen.
Oh yeah. When I started this, we were like, I had all these agendas, right? But I got to tell you, who makes this happen is Hal Gailey with Bio City Tex. He's sitting over there right now, and he's going, "Oh, good, you remembered to say my name."
No, he didn't say that.
Well, you know why?
What is good is he.
I could tell. He's got this.
He's showing these big flashcards to us. Is like, okay, move on, shut up.
You got 10 minutes. Shut up. Pat. I'm gonna mute you.
We'll see. Well, see, Pat remembered to say his name because he knows that Hal can mute any one of us at any time.
Well, the thing about it is Hal's great. I've known Hal for like 15 or 16 years. I met him through his partner, Chad Ladner, with Bio City Tex. And then Chad went to college, and I said, well, who can I get to come work on our computers, and who can I refer to my friends and all? And he said, well, you can get Hal. Here's his number. So he gave me Hal's number, and I called Hal. And then, of course, Hal sent me his information on my contacts, so I could have his email and all that stuff, and his address and all. I mean, I've had friends. I had an ex-business partner that died that, he kept saying he worked for an oil company. He was a real smart guy, made $500,000 a year, and he was having computer problems. I said, well, call Hal. He said, no, I don't need him. I can do it myself. Well, his problem went on for like 3 or 4 days. And I said, look, you think you're really smart. Call Hal, probably for $50. He can fix your problem, and then you're back on, with your computer. So he finally called Hal, and then like a week later, he goes, my computer guy, Hal. and
then he even forgets that you refer to him.
No, he talks like, like he knows Hal and I don't, right? But Hal is a great guy. If you're in this business, or you're a homeowner, or you own a computer, you're going to have problems. you can go to MassivePassiveShow.com, and Hal's information is in there. Give him a call. Text him. He'll return your call almost immediately, or if he's working on something, he will call you back. And he does the. You also do the. What do you call that thing where you work from your office?
We use AnyDesk for that.
AnyDesk, that's right. Well, there used to be another one, but now it's AnyDesk. And he can actually move around on your computer and fix your problems from his office, 90% of the time or better. So, give Hal a call. He'll tell you how to get on AnyDesk, and he can fix your problem, and his rates are great. I mean, once Hal works for you, he'll be your computer
I probably
guy.
need him because I'm trying to get Yahoo search engine out of my friggin' computer. It keeps showing up, and I can't stand the thing.
Well, he can do that.
It won't go away.
He can do it. I mean, I've had problems with Yahoo several times with stuff that it wouldn't load or do something.
And let me tell you, Mr. Yahoo, if you're out there, it's a criminal thing you're doing to keep showing up on my computer without my permission. I do not like that one little bit.
Well,
you
Facebook,
need to go to jail, Yahoo.
Facebook will keep loading things into your iPhone and stuff and chew up your hard drive, And occasionally, like I called Hal, and I think what happened is we had to reboot Facebook, and then it took away like 20 gigs of my memory. So anyway, we only have 5 minutes left, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Ray.
So, Ray, you get to do a market report in 5 minutes.
He can do it.
Hey, why does he say 5 minutes? I got 9 minutes.
It's actually 7 minutes.
Oh, well. So let's just talk a little bit about the market report, because one of the things is there's a Texas A&M Real Estate Center that, as a realtor, we pay for that. They take a little money out of every realtor's fee, annual fee, and they make that. And I've looked in a lot of states, and very few states have something as good and as valuable as a Texas Real Estate Center. It's ran by Texas A&M, and they spend money getting market data from different places like the Federal Reserve St. Louis or Federal Reserve Dallas, and they pull data from all over all the places. So like in our meetings, that's one of my go-to places because they're looking at market data. In our Texas real estate investing community, that's sometimes we'll put the data there, either from them or some other sources. And it's worthwhile to just go out there and look at it. I'm really proud that they do something like that. In fact, as a realtor, the Texas Real Estate Commission and what they do is such a benefit to the average person out there. Anybody can call out there, get that data, whether you're a realtor or not, or talk to a track attorney. So there's some really good resources out there. And so what I typically do and I'll pull up some data that may be of some interest. And one thing when we're dealing with data, you got to think in terms of the data is either like yesterday's data or it's a trailing data, like it's 2 or 3 months old. And so when you're relying on other places to give you this data and then you're aggregating it, is always going to be 2 or 3 months old. So that means we got to look for trends. So a lot of this data I'm going to give you is like a month or two old, but that's the way it has to be because it's aggregated. And we're looking at trends. And some data doesn't change rapidly month over month. Were you about to say something, Pat?
No, I'm just doing my finger to see if I can hear it.
Oh, okay. You're testing your vibrating damper. So again, we're still doing the double-digit appreciation. We're in that mode. And I want to share something with y'all. Y'all may not know because we haven't said it, but I was at an Airbnb conference, and they're talking about like, do you want to own the real estate? Do you want to arbitrage the real estate? And it's a big question. And oftentimes, when you see these guys that retire owning a small company, their number one asset is not their company, it's their real estate. Mm-hmm. And so I look at that. I learned that lesson a long time ago. And I looked at that and I said, well, instead of running the business, why not just buy the real estate up front and figure out how to negotiate and short circuit that 35 years of running a business to pay for the real estate? Well, in the Airbnb world, they talk about gross revenue a lot. If you're in double-digit appreciation, which we are, and it's right now 1.2%, that means for every $100,000 this is monthly. This is monthly appreciation. Every $100,000 that you control and manage and you're the beneficiary of that appreciation, that's $1,000 a month. So I want you to think about that, because what is your rent? Your net rent on a house, you're lucky if it's 300 or 500. So guys are literally making 2 or 3 times in appreciation than what they're making over monthly over what they're making in rents. And that's now, we can't always have appreciation, but those guys that have a lot of assets sitting on the ground, they're seeing that. They're seeing their net worth increase dramatically year over year because of what we're doing with appreciation. So that's really important.
Hey, Ray, I'm going to interrupt really quick. Yeah. I think we're going to end up going over because we're only about 2 or 3 minutes out from the end of the show. So I'm going to let Ray continue talking till the end, but we do have YouTube channel. So if you go to the MassivePassiveShow.com, there is a link to our YouTube channel. And I think we'll go over, I think we'll need another 5 or 10 minutes or so, and you can get through that.
Well, hit the bus tour real quick.
You also post your other calls that people can get in on your podcast and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
So hit the bus tour real quick. Let them know what we're doing on the bus tour. What's the date for that?
The bus tour is December 4th.
Right.
And it's the first Saturday of December. We're going to meet over at where we have our general meetings at 1001 West Loop South by the Galleria. And then we're going to go tour a couple of properties, and then we're going to come back and by the end of
class inside.
Yeah, by the end of the tour, you should be able to, estimate repairs, evaluate a property, in a short amount of time, so that you can make offers.
Yeah, we're going to give you a lot of tools to use.
And they can sign up on that how?
At MassivePassiveShow.com, there is a link that they can.
And there's a discount if they sign up early, right?
Because right now
limited seating.
Yeah, right now it's $199 early bird special, and that also comes with a 1-year membership to Alma Ria with that.
Which means you get a lot of the national benefits because we're chapter members of the National RIA. So that's
Home Depot and other stuff.
Oh, right? Some really decent discounts, and they're geared towards investors. In fact, the largest affiliate with Home Depot last year was the National RIA. They spent over $1 billion, and so Home Depot pays attention if you're a member of the National RIA or a member of a chapter of the National RIA. But just to go through some of these numbers, so one of the things that's happening though is because houses aren't a lot of the affordable housing, and they're calling for this conversation. They're saying that's over 200,000, but when you're borrowing money at 3%. That is affordable because your mortgage, your PITI are pretty low. So there's a problem in that there's not a lot of affordable housing left. And you know what happens when that happens is that we move out of the area that we're in. In other words, the guys that were buying in Fifth Ward or Denver Harbor or some of these off places that typically you could get that house for 100 or 120, 130, they're not there anymore. And so that's affecting supply, and it's making the numbers look bad in the sense that a lot of those transactions aren't going down. And it's not because the market slowed down, it's because it's sped up. It's because those properties aren't there anymore. They don't exist.
There's a lot of people looking for them,
Yeah, and so people are moving out of the area. They're trying to get that affordable housing. And this would take an hour, 2 hours, but we need to have like a meeting, one of our general meetings on what is happening in affordable housing, because the opportunities there for investors are off the charts good. And we need to think about this like from very beginning to very end. What affordable housing, how's it going to be affected, and how do we move through it? So, and if the a show cuts off, we can go where James said go to Massive Passive Show, our YouTube.
Yep, MassivePassiveShow.com, and there's a link. It'll take you to YouTube.
Yeah, so we're just going to go through, and if it cuts us off, it cuts us off. So multifamily permits increased across Texas, and single-family permits decreased. But a lot of people, my next-door neighbor was going to build a house, and they said, until the lumber prices and these other building materials go down, they're holding off because they were in that price range, and all of a sudden the builders are going back and say, hey, you need to write a check for another $10,000 or $15,000 because they're watching their numbers.
Framing materials on an average house went from $10,000 to $40,000.
Yeah, and one thing is on Texas months of inventory, we're at 1.6 months across Texas. Now, places like Austin are like 0.9 months. Places like Houston are 1.7 months. months of inventory, when it gets below 6 months, that means it's a seller's market. And that if you think about that, like you start asking yourself, well, what does that mean? It changes how you fix up the houses. It changes the upgrades you do, because you don't need those upgrades because you have people standing in line. Now, if we're 8 months or 9 months, then yeah, we're going to do higher level upgrades. San Antonio's 1.7 months, Austin 0.9 months, Houston's 1.8 months for months of inventory. The days on market is sort of kind of confusing if you're thinking about it, but it's sort of like months of inventory, but it's really about once a house is placed on the market, how long does it typically stay? In Austin, it's 18 days. That's unheard of. And think about what that means. That means don't mess around. Get the price right. Say things in the listing like the purchase price starts at 200 or 300. Don't say the sales price is 200. Say it starts. And then you're always going to have, in a place like in Houston, it's 26 days. So in both places, if it's a great property, it will sell more than what the appraised value is, if it can qualify. So that's one of those things we have to think about. Another thing we want to look at is a 10-year Treasury bill, because a 10-year Treasury bill Treasury note kind of determines what's going to happen with mortgage rates. And for the fourth month in a row, we're now at 1.3%. Now, this is a 1 or 2 months old data, so we got to look at it. But you always look at the 10-month Treasury to see what mortgage rates are. And of course, mortgage rates are, around 3% right now for houses. Now, if it's for investors, it can be anywhere from 3.5 to 8.5 for fully amortizing loans. But really, that's really what I wanted to share with y'all this morning. Once every 4 or 5 months, we'll do an in-depth market report at the RIA meetings, which takes about 30 minutes. So y'all have any questions on that, or we want to call it a show?
I think we can go ahead and call it a show.
Okay. Well,
Are we out of time already? Are we off the air?
We're off the air. We're on YouTube.
We've been on.
Hello, everybody on YouTube.
Come on, keep up, Pat.
Right? We're still here with
Can
YouTube.
you dance? Can you show us a dance? Weren't you a dancer?
Well, I used to dance a lot until my knees got so bad.
Do we want to keep viewers or grow our channel, or do we want to?
Well, yeah. We're still on YouTube, right?
Forget the dancing. Yeah,
we're still on YouTube. Well, hey, everybody on YouTube, tune in to the radio show on 1070 AM. You get it on the iHeart app, and you get to watch it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's broadcasted live. It's simulcasted.
And then you post it on our Massive Passive Deal Makers, right, on our Facebook. And be sure, if you're checking into this and you don't have for some reason you can't get into our website, go to Massive Passive Deal Makers on Facebook and join that group. And then you can say, hey, I'm so-and-so, and I'd like to talk to Pat or Ray or James, and we'll make sure that you can get on our other Facebook page, right, which is Texas Real Estate Investor Community.
Yeah, and the two, just so people understand the distinction between them, the Massive Passive Deal Maker Facebook page, we've got probably 3,600 members. Yeah. That's designed more for not for marketing your deals or finding buyers or sellers. It's more for asking questions like, hey, what is a 203B or a 203K? What's the difference? So asking good, simple question. Don't get on there and say, hey, can you tell me what's involved in wholesaling? Because that's who's going to type that out, right?
Well, that's
a book in a weekend class.
But anyway, so Massive Passive Deal Maker Facebook page is more education oriented. We do a live stream every week. And then our Texas Real Estate Investing Community is for people who have deals, people who have information, interesting facts about Texas, because hopefully you're considering yourself a Texan now, even if you're new here or weren't born here. And so that we want to orient that towards deals in Texas and deal makers in Texas. Right. It's not really education oriented, but it's to show, we'll put our vendors out there and say, hey, this is our foundation guy. This is our flooring guy. And then if it's somebody that's not vetted, like the lenders, we typically won't let them list because we can't vet the lenders. And about half the people that post on Facebook are not people you want to do business with.
Well, for instance, we don't post general contractors on our website.
Right.
And that's because we protect our vendors. In other words, we protect, like Zach, he comes on and is our solar guy. Well, we'll protect him from some other contractor throwing him under the bus and having someone else do the job, right? And so we protect our electricians, our plumbers, and everybody. That's the beauty of what we do with our vendors.
Well, we want to be able to fire them if they don't take care of our members.
Well, I'm real clear. When I called Gerardo this morning, told him to listen to the radio show that I was going to talk about him. And then when I met him, listen, the guy's great. I'm me, Ray. I meet somebody, I start giving them 21 questions, right, to find out what they do and all that stuff, because that's the way I am. And because I've been in business for so many years, you don't get good contractors by keeping your mouth shut.
No.
Because you never know who you're going to meet. And this guy was really good. He talked. He told me about his business and all that. And he told me his age and how long he'd been doing it.
Right.
And from right there, I made a pretty good judgment that this guy's probably a good vendor because not only he talked to me, that means he's willing to talk to his clients. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my wife calling in because I got a gate guy. So I'm gonna get away from this for a second and talk to her.
Okay.
Well, I'm just gonna make two more quick points because we do have to wrap up because we actually have a meeting here in a few minutes.
Hey.
But a couple of things I did want to point out in the two different Facebook groups, in the massive passive deal makers group, and even in the Texas real estate community. We actually have a link, a calendar link. You can actually book. If you're struggling with something, you want to know more about our events and what we do, you want to know more about our coaching and how all that works, you can actually schedule a call, and it'll be a one-on-one call. You can go to that link and schedule it, and then we'll be on the call for however long we need to, 5, 10, 15 minutes.
To see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, to see if we're a good fit for each other. The other thing that I did want to point out, one of the things about the Texas real estate group that would be, it's very beneficial to join, is that group is becoming a pretty big network, and it's actually growing really super fast.
We surpassed 1,000 people a day.
Yeah.
Did you see? I sent you that thing where it's growing 1,000 people a day, and what we want it to be is about people who are interested in Texas real estate. If you see a good Texas sunrise, put it out there. If you see something that's important for Texans, put it out there. That's what it's where we want people who are fellow Texans or want to be fellow Texans. Maybe that will be your first entry into being considered a Texan. Yeah. Put good, engaging content out there, and it's always about the strength of the membership, and it's not about what you're giving as far as asking for business and stuff like that. We really try to limit that as much as possible.
Yeah, both groups we run them as a community, and we want everybody to support each other.
Right.
It's just one is for one purpose, the other one is for education based to get your questions answered. And we got a few things that we're working on that we'll be bringing to your attention. That we're always trying to improve it, trying to make both of our groups the best out there in the world of Facebook. So that's really all I wanted to say about those two groups. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and join both of our groups
and share it
and share it too.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially if you get some value of it. We talked about adding value. If we add value to you, add value to us, and share our information.
Okay. Well, let's sign off.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Hal.